All right, welcome back to another episode of Recovery Real Talk. My name is Angelica Matthies Rodriguez, and you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Carissa Matthies.
Hello, and welcome to the show.
Hi.
You want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Carissa. I'm 30. I'm a student, and I'm also a medical assistant. I'm a psych major, so this is why I wanted to do this podcast. And I also have a lot of experience with loved ones and addiction, and I think I have valuable stuff to share.
So what'd you do for your Dirty 30?
I went to eat with my family at the rooftop. It was pretty good. What else did we do? We went out and had drinks. Well, after the family went home. Yeah, it was pretty chill. Just
You never really liked to go out, huh?
no.
You've always
I'm
kind of been
not
like
wild at all.
No.
I sit at home and I smoke weed. That's what I do.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Some people are just introverted.
Yeah.
I'm
very
introverted.
introverted. Yeah, I would say I'm not extroverted at all. Like I used to be, but
I don't really remember you. Maybe before I met you.
maybe.
But when I remember thinking of you as like a mother figure because I was so young. I was like, 16? You were like already 19 or 20.
Yeah.
I remember thinking.
I think I was 21 even actually.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't know. I've been around kids. I raised Elijah, my little brother. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just very like that. I don't know.
So what was your upbringing like? Because I know you have a little brother.
I do. Yeah. I have 3 brothers in total. So my upbringing was not horrible. It was good. I grew up with my mom and dad. My older brother, which is not my dad's child, that's my mom's son. She was a teen mom. She had him at 15.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I think, a struggle for her. So she, of course, relied on her parents for help. And then when she was 22, she met my dad. They were working at a pizza parlor together. And then they moved to Humboldt. My family's from Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reason they moved to Humboldt is because my mom actually, when my parents met, my mom was struggling with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad really, wanted to make it work and wanted to raise my older brother with her. So they moved here. My mom went to rehab.
Did she go to rehab here in
She
Humboldt?
did, yeah.
What program?
She did Healthy Moms.
Oh.
Yeah. So she did that before I was born. This is just kind of what I've heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, got a job at Mervyn's. My dad was going to school. Like things were, yeah, right. All my school clothes were from there. Yeah, I mean, it was, they were young, but they were doing it,
Yeah.
They were living with my grandparents when I came about. And then we kind of got into like the housing authority type situation. So then we moved into our own apartment. And then my mom decided to start her own business. And that's when like the daycare kind of thing came about. And so she started her daycare in a housing authority apartment, actually.
Oh, cool.
So it was kind of interesting, but there was no space. So then, my dad ended up getting a better job and graduating college, and like things started looking up for them. So we ended up moving to the house in Cutton. And that's kind of like the foundation of my childhood was that home. And then I would say when I was 8 is when my little brother, Elijah, came. I would say addiction was off and on throughout my childhood because my dad was injured when I was about, I would say, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And he was prescribed pain pills. Pain pills were very prominent in his part of his story. They were never really a part of my mom's story until later on when I would say my little brother was maybe 1 or 2. And then their marriage started falling apart because they started, fighting over pain pills. And then my mom started slowly but surely relapsing. And her drug of choice was methamphetamines. So when I want to say, let's see here, I would have been 9. And my Elijah would have been maybe 5 or 6 months old. My mom went out to a party with my aunt. It's like a bachelorette party. And I went to my grandma's. My dad had my little brother. And it was his first time with the baby by himself. So he was kind of freaked out, He was like, and Elijah was, nursing. So my dad was like kind of freaked out. He was like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
Could not get a hold of my mom all night. Like my mom went like MIA. And I was at my grandma's, so I had no idea what was going on. I was just,
How old were you again?
I was like 9 or 10. And I just remember the next morning when I woke up, like, there was so much drama going on. Like, my mom had relapsed for the first time in, like, I don't know, 16, 15 years on methamphetamine.
Mhm.
I mean, pills are still drugs, but they're a little different than methamphetamine. Like, they make you act a little different.
Yeah, I get what
a
you
lot different.
Yeah.
So, when she came home, my dad was, like, pissed, you know? He's like, "I couldn't get a hold of you. Like, what if something happened to the baby?" Like, you know, it was just, like, this huge mess. And that's kind of when it started, like, when it really started, like, when my mom's addiction really started affecting the family and her parenting and her, you know, her being a wife and her being a daycare provider. Like, you can't do those things when you're struggling with addiction or demons, you know? And my mom was very, very in denial, even to the day my mom is deceased, by the way. Until the day she died, she was in denial, you know?
About being
an addict, absolutely. She never, ever, ever, ever took accountability for that. And that was the most frustrating thing about it all. But fast forward, let's fast forward to, you know, my 8th grade year. And in those years, you know, there was still addiction with my dad, and my mom wasn't using meth like all the time, to my knowledge, but she was drinking a lot and just there was a lot of chaos in the house. So my 8th grade year, my parents split finally after being married for like 20 years. And they split, and my mom got her own house, still was doing the daycare thing. That ended up all crashing because my mom went full-blown addict at that point. And Elijah was 5 or 6? 6. So he was little. My older brother was grown at this time. He had a daughter who was probably my niece Rayana's age now. So she was probably 1 or 2.
So what's the age gap between you and your older brother?
8 years. We're all 8 years apart.
Oh, so you're 8 and then you and Elijah are 8 years?
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Well, me and Maui are 6 years apart. Me and my brother Malik are 6 years apart, and then me and my brother Levi are 3 years apart. So I mean, age gap's like 8 years. I'm just like,
it's kind of weird.
But it's crazy that you're just all of you are 8 years
totally
apart.
Yeah,
well, except Elijah
like
and your older brother.
Brian was 8 when I was born. I was 8 when Elijah was born. Like,
oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But then, you know, I have a little brother who I'm 18 years apart from. So it's
You have another brother?
Yeah, from my dad. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we don't really talk about him or see him, but I'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
So
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So when your mom and your dad were living in Sacramento, was she doing methamphetamine back then?
Yeah.
How long was she in active addiction then that you know of?
So I think when my mom was young, before she had my brother, she was partying, right? Like I said, she was pregnant at 15. So I mean, before then, there wasn't like meth in her life or anything. But I would say there was a neighbor that she had in Sacramento living with my grandparents, and that neighbor was a drug dealer. So I think that's when she kind of got introduced to meth. So I would say her active addiction was probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years.
And so when your mom and dad met, was she in
active addiction? Yeah.
How did your parents meet? At the pizza parlor, you said?
They did. And funny story, my dad was not in addiction. I mean, my dad was like a little church boy, you know?
And so they met working together. And when did he find out about her addiction?
I don't think till they started like really hanging out because my mom was a party girl and my dad was like, you know, my dad partied a little bit here and there, but my dad was more of like, I'm just trying to escape my religious house, you know, and I want to have fun.
What religion was he raised in?
Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, okay.
So my dad grew up very sheltered.
Yeah.
And my mom was like this free spirit, wild child. And I think that my dad saw like a fun side in her.
And well, he probably never got to experience things that people normally experience in teen. His age when they're not in that kind of environment.
Like he wasn't allowed to play sports. He wasn't allowed to have friends outside of the congregation.
I don't believe that they celebrate holidays too.
Nope. My dad never got a birthday party.
Yeah.
That's why we never not had a birthday. Like we always have birthdays, even if it's something small. Like
yeah.
So I think that him wanting to like just something different, I think, is what he...
Almost like an escape.
Yeah. And my mom has even said out of her own mouth, like, I wanted to save your dad. but it's like maybe he wanted to save you too, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. So it was like
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was like this weird dynamic. And then my dad moved out with his brother, my uncle, and it was just like this big party house. And my mom ended up moving in, and it was like they were young and having fun. And
oh, how cute.
They just one day my dad was like, you know what? Like it was okay. I think the story is my brother was 5, my older brother, and he needed a yearbook. And my dad had given my mom money for a yearbook, and my dad had found out that money went to drugs, and my dad was fucking pissed. And that was like that was like my dad's like final breaking point. He's like, you need to either get some help or this isn't going to work.
Right.
And so my dad kept my brother actually while my mom went to rehab up here. He kept him for maybe 2 weeks. And my dad's like, I have to get back to work. And mind you, my dad's 18 at this time, raising a 5-year-old.
Oh, okay.
So
that's a big responsibility.
Yeah. My brother and my dad are 12 years apart. I mean, there's not a lot of age gap.
So your mom was like 21?
Mm-hmm. So my dad's
like 3 years apart.
They're about 4 years apart.
Okay.
Yeah. So when he was like, okay, I have to go back to work. I need to figure out my own life. Like he brought my brother back up here, up north to live with my grandparents. And then I guess, I don't know what my mom convinced him of, but they stuck it out and got married and had me and were together for 19 years, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the connection there was, but.
So by the time you were like 14, your mom was in full-blown addiction.
Absolutely. She actually overdosed when I was in 8th grade, and that's a story we can talk about later. But yeah, she was in full-blown addiction.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect your life? Like when she...
How did it affect my life? That's crazy. It affected my life. I would say that was like the start for all of my mental health issues. Like
was it when you were about 14?
Absolutely.
When she went into full-blown addiction?
Mm-hmm. And I would say that's when my depression started. I mean, I've always been an anxious child, but I was never a depressed child. You know, I was happy. I would smile.
You're very timid too, so you probably
Absolutely. I always get that. And that's because growing up, I was always like, my mom would always threaten to leave. And like, she did leave, you know, and when that anxious fear was validated, I'm like, okay.
That's the root of abandonment issues.
I'm not anxious for no fucking reason. Like.
It doesn't just happen.
Yeah. Like all this shit comes from somewhere. And, you know, being in active therapy and taking my meds, like that stuff helps, but it's not like the, you know, it doesn't fix everything. It's constant work every day, you know, trying not to get stuck in that pattern that I believe she started for me.
Right.
You know.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
So how long was she in active addiction from the time your parents separated?
She passed away in 2021 and she was in active addiction that whole time. So from when I was 14 to when she died. Absolutely.
How did she
pass away?
No. Well, we can get to that, but my question was going to be, how did she was she homeless? Did she?
Yeah. So, so pretty much when we had that house in 8th grade, she lost everything because she was using. Obviously, you can't take care of you should never take care of other people's children when you're under the influence of anything.
Yeah.
That's a big no-no.
Yeah.
And that just kind of makes me sick looking back on it. However, when she lost everything, even the car got repoed. Like this is like everything step by step, you know? That's when she was like, we're moving in with grandma and grandpa. And then when my grandma and grandpa were like, no, that's kind of when that homeless journey started for her.
So did you see your mom frequently when she was in active addiction?
When I became an adult, yes. So my dad, is amazing. And he tried to protect me and my brother as much as he could.
Yeah.
And there was actually a protective order in place when I was 15 all the way till I was 18. And then same with my little brother. It got lifted a little earlier with him because we started seeing improvement with her. But that was about a 4-year protective order. So there was about 4 years, I would say all throughout high school, I didn't speak with my mom. She was not in my life. I would see her on the street. That was about it.
And would you ask your dad, Can we stop and talk to her? Can we give her a jacket or something?
My mom never struggled that way.
Okay.
And my grandma was alive at this time. So my grandma, her mother, was the one who kind of did all that stuff. My dad didn't want my little brother around her, period.
Right.
He kind of gave me more of that leisure room, me being a teenager and me being a woman.
Yeah.
However, it always felt like I had to sneak around if I wanted to see my mom. Like I would see her at my best friend's house or I would see her at my grandma's house. I always felt like I was doing something wrong to my dad if I was wanting to see my mom. So it was like a loyalty.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you feel like it was because he was doing so much to protect you?
Absolutely.
And so it was like a guilt.
Absolutely.
Like wanting to see your mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember on my 15th birthday and my dad made me dinner, bought a cake, but it was it was lame. I wanted to go do something. And so I went to my best friend's house and my mom had called my best friend's house and was wanting to wish me a happy birthday because she didn't have my cell phone number or anything. And my best friend's mom was like, you can hang out with her in the parking lot of the apartment. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything.
Don't take her anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. I got to see her and those little memories are what kept me going, or when we went to a high school dance and we randomly ran into my mom at a liquor store and she was fucking drunk out of her mind. But that was the one time I got to see her, So those memories are kind of what it was like. Or driving down the street with my high school boyfriend and we're going to dinner and my mom's, twacked out of her mind and I'm crying and my boyfriend doesn't understand. And it's these things are what high school was like with her.
That must be really, it must have been a really confusing time, especially being a young woman and not having your mom. Excuse me.
Very confusing.
Yeah, I remember my mom was always there, and she didn't have, an addiction, but she worked a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember there were times where, my mom was working 3 jobs.
Absent parenting is absent parenting no matter what it is.
Yeah, and I'm not mad at her about it and stuff. There were times where I was I wish my mom was around a little bit more, just a little bit. But she did a great job.
And she had to work those 3 jobs.
Yeah,
it's not she wanted to.
Yeah, and I think she always kind of knew I was okay. I've always been pretty independent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
and beyond your years.
Yeah, so I can't imagine, being 15 and just not getting to see my mom. And especially those pivotal years in high school where you're kind of figuring yourself out and you're going to figure out what you want to do with your life.
And I mean, my dad's
womanhood.
Awkward dude. Yeah. He's an awkward, quiet dude. So
really?
You think me coming to advice to him is really valuable?
That would be such an awkward interaction. Yeah. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of Tina Belcher and Bob from Bob's Burgers.
Yes.
Two super awkward people having a conversation.
Absolutely. And my awkwardness comes from my dad full force. He's the most awkward dude ever. But
what does your dad do for a living, or what was he doing at the time? Because you said he went to college, right?
He did, yeah.
What was his degree?
He has a AA in business.
Oh, nice.
And he's got 4 or 5 AAs, but he never went to HSU because funny story, he had to take a speech class, stand-up public speaking.
Oh, yeah, communications, he 4 or
something. He refused, and that was the one class he needed, and he's I'm not doing it, because he's so,
yeah.
He does not do this kind of stuff. My dad
public speaking.
No, not at all. So, yeah, I mean, he managed O'Reilly's for 30 years. That's what he did. He was an auto part guy. You know
what's crazy too is, doesn't your little brother, he's doing some business stuff too, right? Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He does.
So he does music producing.
Yeah.
And he's done a really cool, I don't know, he's done a lot of cool stuff with it, and he makes a living off of it where he doesn't have to, do the normal 9 to 5, which is really cool, because I've always told myself without a job I'm screwed, Yeah. But there's so many endeavors you can do nowadays. You don't have to slave away at a 9 to 5.
You know what's weird is that I kind of like my 9 to 5.
I don't.
A lot of people hate it. I actually kind of like it.
Yeah. I'm a medical assistant, so I mean it's not that I don't love the work I do.
No,
it's that I want to do the job I actually want to do. That's why I'm a psychology major, That's why I'm going to school to be a therapist. That's what I want to do.
Oh, you'd be such a good therapist.
That's what I want to do. However, I have to grind and get there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, medical assisting is a good start, and like, shadowing like case managers and like, social workers.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's all in the works, and I'm super excited.
Yeah. Have you thought about doing like, well, you said you wanted to be a psychologist. Have you thought about working with like case managers outside of
absolutely
the medical field and stuff?
So my overall goal initially was to work with kids with drug addicted parents.
That's what I was going to ask.
And that's kind of still my passion, right?
Yeah.
However, I'm trying to think how to incorporate like therapy into that, because I want it to be like a healing journey. I want it to be like, I don't want it to be something that I'm not doing to better that patient or that client or whatever you want to call them. So I think that being a medical assistant has got me in the door of learning
like
patient
your foot in
care.
the door.
Yeah, because before I've never, dealt with a human like one-on-one trying to like help them. It was just like, oh, here's your pizza or here's your coffee. Like I never dealt with a human on a more mental health type of level. And I think that outside of like family practice, there's way more opportunities to like do what I actually want to do and like shadow like, different types of organizations and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you you said that you got to see your mom more frequently when you became an adult. So what was when and how did you like try to help her?
Yeah, absolutely. So how this all came about was 2016 when my grandma passed away. Her mom. And my grandma was like the normal grandma, holds everything together, keeps everyone afloat, tries to make everyone like each other even if they don't. So when my grandma passed away, I promised her that I would try to fix things with my mom. Like that was one thing that my grandma wanted. She wanted it for me and my brothers, but specifically me, because I feel like we all three are affected differently. However, I'm a woman and I like need my mom, and my grandma knew she was dying. Like this was all like her end of life plan was planned, So we had time to talk about this and we had time to, express what could be different if actions were taken. And my grandma, wanted me to forgive her. Not forget, but forgive her. And it took me a long time, even after my grandma died. It took me probably 2 or 3 years after that to really forgive her, right? But what it looked like was just me having my mom come over, like, and we'd make dinner or small things. It was never like me giving her money or at first, it was never like her and me, just jumping into things right away. It was, we gradually got there. And by us gradually getting there and doing small things like that, it became, okay, I feel like I'm getting my mom back. However, I had to tell myself she's not sober, and she's not going to get sober. So I have to like love her at a distance.
Yeah, like almost like putting up a boundary because people in addiction,
are everything.
Well, not even just that, but can be really selfish. So it's like you have to prepare for the moments that are probably going to happen.
And the moments that are going to hurt and the moments that are going to suck and the moments that might piss her off because she doesn't understand my boundary,
Right.
And boundaries have always been broken with my mom. Like, I don't feel like she ever respected my boundaries. Same with my older brother. Like, they look at me as like, okay, this girl has her life together. She's smart. She's, not a drug addict. However, those people are the type of people that break too. I mean, because we're tired of dealing with the addict. I mean, codependency is one thing my grandma taught me from a young age, because my grandma was very codependent on all the addicts in my family, because she wanted to fix everybody, including my mom and my brother. And, when my little brother started getting older, I would say 11, 12, maybe 13, my dad kind of started coming around because he started noticing that I was becoming more close with my mom, right? And he was like, as long as you're there and it's in a safe public place, I think it's safe to say that your brother can see your mom. So then that's when we started meeting at the park and like, just doing little things like that. Seeing her on Christmas, seeing her on Christmas Eve, seeing her on Thanksgiving. And it was always at my house. Like, all these things always happened at my house because I've always had my own place, So she would
You've always had your own place. Always, like, super independent.
So she would, the family would come over even if my space was small, but it felt nice, because my grandma wasn't around anymore. And so my house now felt like the place that we can actually be a family.
Right. Would your dad come too?
Never.
No.
My parents had a lot of animosity. I think my dad was more angry. My mom was more like, I don't think my mom's was animosity and my dad's was anger. My mom felt as though my dad took us from her, which was not the reality.
No, yeah. It's her sense of reality.
Totally.
Yeah. I can understand why she feels that way and why she is thinking that way. It's because
her brain is fucking warped and clouded, However, my dad's anger came from the fact that, okay, we did this together for 19 years and now I have to do this alone. My dad was angry and like he had to learn how to be a single dad too. That stuff
was young.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't just happen overnight. Like, that stuff you have to learn.
And not only that, but he like stuck by her.
Absolutely.
And raised her son as his own.
Yeah.
So I can understand why he's upset and hurt. Probably stung.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, when she passed away, my dad was hurt for us because I was in a good place with her when she died. And I can't speak for my little brother and I can't speak for my older brother, but I want to say that they both were in good places, right? And I think, my dad did go to her funeral, which I was shocked.
Wow.
He didn't stay the whole time, but he did pay his respects. And I think that in the last 3.5 years that she's been gone, I think that my dad's become less angry and more receptive to talking about her in a positive way, which is really nice. And I don't think my mom ever got to that point with him. Like, we couldn't talk about our dad without her being super negative or her being just super, just bitter.
Yeah.
So
it's no fun.
No.
It's like, I'd rather just not talk about it at all,
Well, yeah.
Or bring it up.
You guys have 2 kids together. It's like you guys have us in common no matter what forever. Like, we didn't choose to be here. Like, fucking suck it up, buttercup. Like, that's how I felt.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you mean.
Like,
yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I have divorced parents, so.
Yeah. I mean, no, in this day and age, it's so normal to have divorced parents.
Thank you. Yeah, right?
Like I think I have 0 friends with together parents.
What's weird is
None.
I have so many friends whose parents are still together.
0.
And I'm just like, must be nice.
Totally.
Must be nice to be raised normal and you
stable
suck.
human. No.
No. It's like, I don't know. I've talked about it on an episode before where I wish like we could just be like a family, but like obviously I don't want them together.
Well, yeah, you put them in a room. Do you really think you
not
want
them
like
to get together ever.
No.
But like they're also happy in their own places. But we were finally at a place in my life where like now we go to dinner on my birthday together and stuff.
Absolutely.
But I wish we could do like family vacation. It's just unrealistic.
Totally.
It's just divorced kid thoughts,
it's divorced kid syndrome.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Like, I didn't know. And I tried to convince like my parents, like, let's go on a trip to Europe together. Like, Mom, you can bring like your guy. Like, because my mom's been with her partner for like years.
Totally.
And he's a cool dude. And like, I was like, we can all go. He can come. Like, we can be a family.
And they were like,
my mom was like, no. And even my dad was like, what is wrong with like, that's weird.
Hilarious.
You're weird. And I was like, I know. I don't know. I was like, I didn't know the last family vacation was going to be our last family vacation. You can't just do that.
You don't plan those things.
I was trying to like manipulate them and it didn't work.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I totally get what you mean.
Absolutely. And I think too, like, I mean, I look back at like, big events in my life, like graduations, like 8th grade, high school. Like, my parents were both there, but they like my 8th grade, like my dad was hiding in the corner. And then my high school graduation, my mom was like making this big old scene. And it was like, why are you even here?
Yeah.
So it's like, I have those memories of them being there, but just dysfunctionally.
Yeah.
So
Wait, that sucks. I'm sorry.
It is what it is.
And then
you know?
you mentioned your brother also struggled.
Oh, man.
He struggles with addiction. And I see you post about it, 'cause I know Carissa. I've known Carissa for a really long time.
Yeah.
I met Carissa when I was 16. We used to work together at McDonald's for like years, like what,
Yeah.
4 years or something?
I worked there for a while.
Yeah.
Thought I was a lifer. Thank God I'm not.
I think we all kind of feel that way. I'm glad Emily's not a lifer.
For
I was
real.
worried about that.
Oh, man.
But I can't. We talk about it all the time. But yeah, so I've known Carissa for years, so
Long time.
that's why there's like some background.
And there's some family background too.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah, my brother, so my brother, I have an older brother who's his little sister and Carissa's little brother. They have a baby together, so it's like crazy. And I remember when I met Elijah in the McDonald's lobby when he was like 14 and he's super shy and introverted, and I was like, hey.
You could tell he's Carissa's little brother.
Yeah, I was like, what's up?
He's not that way no more.
I would just sit
He's
next
so
to
not
him in
that
the
way.
lobby and I'd be like, how was school today? Or something. I think I made him so uncomfortable.
He was the
just
most
like
awkward kid, but
like,
he's grown into a very very social butterfly. Like I don't know, I think we both reversed. Like
crazy.
He grew into his social self and I just kind of didn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. So that's what when I said, like, I've seen your posts on Facebook about him and stuff. And so do you want to talk a little bit about your brother?
So my older brother, his name's Brian. Ironically enough, is today the 4th.
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
His birthday today. Aww. Ironically enough, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. We're not on great terms. And I actually never plan to speak to him again. However, happy birthday. So with my older brother, I can't really say that I have a lot of memories with him. And I can't say he's ever really been an older brother to me. That's kind of where our base is, right?
Was it because of the age gap?
It was sometimes, right? However, he became an addict very young. So he started, hanging out at drug houses and trap houses, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. He started hanging out at those kind of houses at like 15, 16. So, when I'm 8 and my brother's a newborn, like I have no connection with him. And he was like always so mean growing up. Like he was angry and just wasn't approachable, So I've never had that foundation with him.
Do you think that he was like that because he was doing drugs? Like that irritability part of it and like the being mean part?
No, I think it started way before the drugs. I think that he was mad because he didn't have his dad and he watched me and my other brother have our dad. I also think that he had a lot of anger because he felt like he didn't have our mom to himself. I felt like Do
you think he felt left out then?
Absolutely. Like in every family picture, he's like in the corner. Like he never wanted to make himself feel included.
But that's so weird to me because your dad raised him from such a young age. So you would think that maybe he would have... Did he call your dad dad?
No.
No?
Never. I think also too because they're so close in age. I mean, 12 years is young, right? Or not young, excuse me. 12 years is not a lot. 12 years.
Yeah, I know what
being
you meant.
12 years old and then this baby's going to be my stepson one day. That's weird to think about.
Yeah.
If you think about it in that aspect.
It is, yeah.
So it's like they had a lot in common, like sports and music and video games and all the stuff, right? However, when my brother was about 6, this is where it comes from. My dad tried to discipline him. And my grandparents were like, no, he's not your son. You're not going to discipline him. And at this time, my dad had been in his life for about a year. And my dad was like, you know what? If I'm not going to be able to discipline my stepson, then all hands are off the table. And my dad never disciplined him again. So when it came to my brother getting in trouble, it was always, well, we're going to send you to your grandparents or your grandparents are going to punish you. It was an interesting dynamic in that way. So my dad, I don't know. My dad was his father figure, but when it came to him being in trouble, like my dad didn't know how to handle him, if that made sense.
Well, that's such a hard conversation to have. So I don't have kids, so I can't speak
I don't either.
on it, like, as a parent,
Totally.
from a parent point of view, you know?
Mhm.
And I can't even do a hypothetical realistically because it's just
It's hard to picture,
it's hard
right?
to picture,
Yeah.
but also it's hard to put yourself in a position that you've never been in.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I can talk the talk all I want, but in
Right.
reality, I've never been in that position, and I could be saying that until I'm
Mhm.
put in that position. I might not know what to do.
Right.
So it's like,
And I can
I don't
judge the
know.
situation just being, like, in the family, and I can be like, well, and I can be mad at my dad, like, why didn't you do more? Or, why did you, not treat him the same way you treated us type of thing in his eyes. But I mean, that's not my experience. I don't know.
And I don't know how your dad was going to discipline him, but there's other ways to discipline kids too, where it's like, okay, you're not going to act right. Like, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this,
I think that it was like a grounding situation. Like my dad was like,
oh, then that's just, he should have grounds to ground him. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But my dad being young at the time, my
Right.
grandparents looked at him as a kid still, and they were like, you're not going to ground a 6-year-old. That's ridiculous. He's not even your son.
I forgot he was
Like,
6.
So it's like, my dad didn't know what the fuck he was doing. I mean, he was trying.
Yeah, he was like, what, 18?
Yeah. So
Like,
I mean,
it's like, have you seen that? Like, this TikTok town, it's like, you want a beer? And he's like, he's 4. He's like, well, I don't know. What am I supposed to do with him? It's like,
totally.
totally kind of like that. It's like, I don't
Absolutely.
know what to do. I didn't know I can't ground a 6-year-old. I mean,
Totally.
they don't understand now thinking about it, probably later on in life, you probably like, I can't ground a 6-year-old. Like, they don't know what
Absolutely.
that means.
Right.
But like
So,
being 18, I would have thought the same thing.
absolutely. Like, I don't want this kid near me. Put him in his room. Like,
Yeah, or
whatever.
hey, go to your room.
Totally.
Don't
Like,
come out for a couple hours.
that's how I was when I was 18. Like, I don't know. So that's kind of.
I feel like they kind of did that then.
Yeah,
almost
that's
like
how my dad
placed
felt.
those. Well, yeah, because he felt like he didn't have a say in anything that happened.
That's why he threw his hands up and was just like, you know what? I'll discipline my daughter.
Tough.
I'll discipline my own son.
So
they
alienated. Sorry, your brother kind of. Your grandparents almost kind of did that.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely, because they already had that foundation of being Ryan's parents because my mom was young.
Right.
So they wanted that control, I think.
Oh, that's so confusing. I can. No wonder he felt that way, though.
Totally.
Growing up, it's because,
and that's, I think, why they were more friends, my brother and my dad, than stepson and But what really broke the camel's back for like my brother's addiction, I would say, was because my parents would send my older brother to live with other family members to try to see if that would help get him like together. Sending him to Vegas was the stupidest idea ever, to live with my uncle. Like, what? And then they sent him.
How old was he?
He was 16. And then they sent him to Oregon when he was 17. So like he was getting in trouble no matter where he was. And when he got home, and he turned 18, 19, he got his girlfriend at the time pregnant. So that was like the final straw. My parents were like, you need to get your shit together. You're going to have a kid. You can't be fucking around anymore.
Right.
You can live with us until you get on your feet, but you need to get yourself together. Like like our house wasn't that big, but I mean, we had a daycare. We had like a lot of kids, and like there wasn't room for my brother, his wife, and now a newborn baby.
Oh, that probably made him feel even worse.
Like it was a lot.
Well,
and my older brother wasn't working. My parents were supporting them. Like my parents pretty much raised his daughter for the first, like, I would say 2 to 3 years of her life. So it was just like, I feel like a repeated cycle, right? From where he came from, coming from a teen mom.
Well, also, it sounds like it was just super unstable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, I feel like kids need structure. They need structure. They need discipline. They need routine.
That's why
he didn't have any of that.
That's why I say I come from nothing but dysfunction. Like, literally. Like, I don't think that I remember a time where there wasn't arguing and fighting or just like some type of, conflict with someone.
And then moving around from family member to family member, that probably just made him feel unwanted.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't want to deal with you.
Or he felt like the problem child. You know? He felt like, well, because my parents, like my mom didn't know how to handle him when he was a teen, and my mom had a newborn baby. So.
Well, your mom was also in active addiction. She was in she was in no place to really.
That was like the start of it. She wasn't quite.
When she was like 6. Well, because you were in 8th grade, and he was already an adult at that point.
Yeah, we're 8 years
never
apart.
mind. I keep forgetting. So she wasn't even in active addiction at that point. She just probably didn't know how to handle him.
When I was in 8th grade, he would have been, I think he was in his mid-20s at that point.
Yeah, he had to have been,
So my niece was going on like 4 at this point, and her parents, my brother and his wife, had split. My older brother, well, let me rewind, actually. So they moved out of my parents' house and got their own apartment. Him, and I'm speaking about Brian, his wife, because he did marry her when he got her pregnant. They lived in an apartment.
By the way, you don't have to marry
do that.
someone if you have a kid with them.
This is early 2000s.
Cannot. Oh,
I
my
hate
God.
that too.
I'm sorry. it is okay to not be married and have children together.
I agree. Absolutely. But,
I'm sorry if I offended you. That's just my opinion. And you can have your opinion. That's perfectly fine. But this is just my opinion.
Absolutely. And don't have kids to save a marriage or save a relationship, because it's not going to. Anyways, that's beside the point. So they had that apartment for like maybe a year. And in that apartment, he was doing cocaine. He was having parties while my niece is a baby, mind you. And her mom was like, I don't know what to do, because her mom was not an addict.
Oh, that's what I was about to ask.
Her mom was, and her mom's amazing. I love her mom. She's my sister. But, someone can only take so much, right?
Right. Yeah. Enough is enough at some point,
And then the final straw for her was when, he was so fucking coked out of his mind and like cheating on her. Like, she's like, no, you need to get the hell out or I'm going to move out. Dumb enough, she moves to the upstairs apartment, and that doesn't really do much,
That doesn't
right?
do anything.
That doesn't do anything.
I get it. Yeah.
I mean, in the moment, I guess. But
yeah.
So she moves to the upstairs apartment, and this is like this. Now, this timing is kind of when my mom started her addiction, right? And like gets her own house. And then my older brother moves in with my mom, and like they're both using together. And it just becomes this fucking mess. And when they started using together, that is kind of when I noticed, okay, I don't have my mom anymore, and my older brother is just like her.
And he probably liked spending, this is going to sound fucked up. He probably liked spending time with her, even if it was them using together, because he craved that attention. Well, or like that just
and when they're
quality time.
And later on when they're both homeless and on the streets, it's like he was her protector,
Yeah.
And there's so many stories that I'll never know if they're true or not, but it's always like my mom needing him to come and protect her. Or, my mom trying to get him to like not do something and then it backfiring in her face. And then they get in this huge argument and then they don't speak because they're both not sober and they're both fighting over dumb shit,
Right. So
that's also kind of their dynamic. But Brian was always a heroin addict. So my mom's meth, my brother's heroin. So it's like when they're together, they don't mix well. I don't know.
It's a different
It's high. A different high. Yeah.
Your mom's chatty Cathy over here.
Totally.
And your brother's like, shut up and try to take a nap.
Yeah. Like I remember, my older brother, he always ended up with these really good women. Like it's so weird. Like,
you know what it is? It's the women that think they can fix men.
Because my brother's only had 2 relationships in my entire life.
Yeah.
He was with my niece's mom for years.
Right.
And then he met his long-term girlfriend who was amazing. Like, amazing. And she was sick, too. Like, she had a chronic disease that really made her sick. And she had a son, and she still put up with his shit. So a lot of the years that my brother was in active addiction, he would live at her house and take advantage of her. And never raised his daughter. And, just this big pile of piece of shit, Come to find out, let's see, 20, what year was it? 2018. He, ends up in jail. And they say, you need to either get help or you're going to end up in jail a long time because you're doing bad, dumb shit. So he ends up going to Crossroads, which is a local, rehabilitation center.
And this is all in Humboldt County, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. He never left Humboldt County until his accident, which I'll get into in a minute. So he actually did really well at Crossroads, and he became like, I don't know. I've never been to a rehab really, like besides to visit him. And he's been to bunches of rehabs all throughout Humboldt. And that's pretty much like what I remember growing up doing, is visiting him in rehabs. And it never, it would stick and then he'd relapse. It'd stick and then he'd relapse.
Well, yeah, I read, and I said it on this before, is that 94% of people relapse after they leave rehab. Because it's almost like, was it drug court ordered rehab?
Sometimes it wasn't. Like, sometimes I would say 50-50. Sometimes he'd get a wild hair up his ass and want to change his whole life, you know? But I would say that when he was at Crossroads, that's when I saw like the best version of him. I don't know what happened there or what was going on, but he completely did a 360. He was fat. Like, he gained so much weight. Like, he looked good.
Healthy. He looked healthy.
Yes. Like, and my brother's a good cook. So when he cooks, like, he cooks for everybody. And like, he's eating good food. And like, he's an amazing man when he's sober. I just don't have a lot of that experience to talk on, you know? But when I do see it, it's cool. And he cuts hair. Like, he does a lot of cool things. And he was making this community at Crossroads, and he became like the house, whatever you want to call it, house dad or house counselor or whatever.
Nice.
And that was, you know, his life for all throughout COVID.
So a couple years.
Yeah. And then until my mom died in 2021. So that was from 2018 to 2021. That he was sober. He saved a lot of money. He was detailing cars. Like, he was doing really well.
That's great.
Never did he get like that relationship with his daughter back. His daughter's now 18 and they still don't really have anything to really speak on. But that's their decision, you know. I think that's her.
Does she see your dad as her grandfather?
I would say yes. My dad loves her and has a special place for her. However, my niece has been raised by a totally different man. She's adopted by a different man. So she, you know, has a totally new upbringing and a new family, and I respect that and commend that.
Definitely.
And I'm not ever going to get in the way of that. So, but you know what really broke the camel's back for my brother at his final relapse, most recent relapse, was when my mom passed away. He wasn't really messing up after she died right away, because we planned the funeral and like everything was good. Like, he was, you know, being a supportive big brother, and, you know, we were meeting and we were doing things and we were supporting one another as siblings, and it felt really good, but that didn't last long, you know? I started hearing.
After your mom had. Right.
And I started hearing rumors about my brother being kicked out of Crossroads. And I was like, I don't know. I haven't heard it from him, so maybe it's just a rumor.
Right.
And then I'd get messages from different people that he knew on Facebook, and they would be like, how's your brother? How's your brother? I heard he's not at Crossroads anymore. And I'm like, he's not speaking with me, so I know something's up. You know? Come to find out, I think he was using at the facility. And it always starts off little with my brother. It always starts off with a pain pill or, you know, smoking a joint, and then it leads to...
Was he completely 100%?
Absolutely.
Sober from everything then? Okay. Because I know there's some people that are like, I think it's called like California sobers, whatever.
My brother does not smoke weed. Okay. He hates it. Like, it's so funny because you'll notice a lot of people in active hardcore drug addiction do not smoke weed.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, what? You know, let's smoke a joint. Like, what? Anyways, but... he ended up relapsing on, I think it was, I don't know exactly, but it escalated into his lowest point, I would say, which was then fentanyl, right? Fentanyl is like, you know about fentanyl. The littlest amount can kill you, and
it's scary. It's everywhere.
Like, why would you even risk that? Right? Like, a normal person thinks that.
Well, it's just not even being... Heroin's not even being sold anymore at this point.
No, it's all fentanyl.
And if you do, it's a little like, pay a little bit more. It's all fentanyl at this point.
It's all fentanyl. And from him being, you know, a heroin user for years and years and years, his tolerance was already high, but being sober for those years, you can overdose and die, you know? So, long story short, we're in 2025 now. It's been... since 2022, I would say that he's really been messing up this time around. In 2023, he had an accident. He was living on the streets of Eureka, downtown mostly, I would say.
By like The mission?
Yeah. He stays in the mission every so often. And I will share that him and his longtime partner did split up. She moved on, had a baby, moved on, and, got married. And I'm very happy for her that she finally left my brother in the past.
Right.
But my brother was, I don't know, what his state of mind was during this time, but he was crossing the street over by like Aladdin Bell Bonds over on that one way. Like,
oh, yeah,
right
yeah,
by,
yeah. To turn right to go down like H Street or something.
So he was crossing and got fucking hit by a semi. And he literally almost died. Like his pancreas was shattered. His internal organs were failing. Like he broke both legs. Like he was air flighted to UC Davis. He was in UC Davis for months. Like, and my brother, has had Hep C. He's had, other diseases that make him unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
And when you are a IV drug user and your Hep C takes over your liver, and now you have a shattered pancreas and your liver is in pieces, and you're on the verge of dying, and that still doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will, So he was really sick for a long time and was like in the hospital. He couldn't leave. He couldn't do anything. And for a long time, I was having to call the hospital to talk to him because he didn't have a working phone.
Right.
He had nothing at that point. And case management was so helpful during this time, and they got him a phone. The only complaint I will say about UC Davis is when they released my brother to rehabilitation, which was like 4 or 5 months down the road, because
he had to, put him back together pretty much.
Yeah. And mind you, he's on fentanyl the whole entire time he's in the hospital. He's on all.
He didn't withdraw in the hospital?
No, because he was in so much pain that he was being given these narcotics, right? And so it's like he never got the chance to get sober, in my opinion. But how could you get sober when you're in that predicament?
That's tough, though, because he was probably in a lot of pain. I mean, he kind of didn't really have a choice in a sense.
And now this is the part that pisses me off the most, because when they rehabilitated him and put him in like a skilled living facility, I don't know if you're too familiar with Sacramento area.
A little bit, yeah.
So they released him over near Stockton Boulevard, which is where all the homeless encampments are.
Yeah.
They released him to like the shittiest of shitty circumstances you could possibly find. And I am thankful that they gave him shelter and rehabilitation. However, you don't do that to somebody who is freshly still in active addiction. You don't do that. That's setting them up for failure. And me and my dad were like, we need to go visit him. Like, we need to go see where they have him, what he's doing.
So it was like a rehab in that area.
Right. Yeah. It was awful.
You can't make someone stay in rehab either.
Right.
So it's like,
it's hard. So my dad was like, let's go visit him. And mind you, my dad and my brother hadn't spoken in like 10 years at this point. And my dad was just like, we need to go see him. He
needs a parent.
He needs somebody. Yeah. So my dad was like, let's go see him. So we went to go visit him, and it was a really good visit. Like it went really well. And my brother looked like complete shit. And it was really heartbreaking. Like he looked horrible. And so I took him to dinner, or late lunch, I guess you can say.
Can you take someone out of rehab to take them to go do something?
Yeah.
You can?
So
I didn't know that.
So for his rehabilitation, it was like it wasn't just a rehab, but it was like a skilled nursing thing. So they were like pretty much like, getting him back on his feet type of thing. And he was like trying to like do like physical therapy there, and like.
So it wasn't just a rehab
right.
for
it was kind of like, I don't know.
Almost like physical therapy.
It was
right?
like it was a skilled nursing facility.
Yeah.
And they offered everything, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you mean. Yeah.
So when we saw him, I mean, we took him to lunch, and like we visited, and like my dad checked out the area, and my dad's very familiar. He's from the area.
Yeah, they're from Sacramento.
And even my brother's from Sacramento, like he and our family's there, like, like we have cousins, aunts, uncles, like we have a shit ton of family there. So if Brian wanted, he could have stayed with some family, but he chose not to. Instead, what he chose to do was fuck up again. And mind you, from this accident, my brother had a settlement, and in the settlement, it was going to be like over $100,000 that he was going to win, right? And in this process, there's a lawyer, there's a detective, there's all kinds of people involved. So this is when that was the last time I saw my brother and the last time I spoke with him. And that was August of 2023.
Okay.
After that visit, I hugged him. I told him, you know, you need to stay here. You need to do what's right. Like, I know the temptation is out there, but I need you.
It's never going to go away.
I need you to be strong, and I need you to get back on your feet, and I need you to use this money for something smart.
Yeah.
You have life-changing money. Like, you need to do something smart with it. Last time I spoke with him, last time I saw him, it had been like 2 weeks by the time after that visit that I hadn't seen or spoke with him. And I was like, okay, something's weird. I need to reach out. His phone was off. I'm like, okay, I'll call his other number. Because for whatever reason, drug addicts have multiple phones. I'm not sure what that's about, but
I don't understand either. I think it's because, you know, especially people that are homeless, they get their stuff stolen a lot.
They have so many unworking phones. I don't
know. I know that they break and then
they sell them and they trade them.
They sell them or they trade them, and it's hard for them to keep belongings.
Totally.
And like, I see it all the time, and it's no like, I have a lot of empathy with people.
Totally.
For people in active addiction, so I don't necessarily want to say anything like negative, but it is hard for them to keep phones,
and it's hard for their loved ones to get a hold of you when you have 17 fucking cell phone numbers.
Yeah.
So he had 3 numbers at this time. So I'm calling all the numbers, right? And I'm messaging him on Facebook. Like, I'm worried, genuinely worried. And
is that when you started posting like that? Has anyone seen my brother? And like,
that comes a little later.
Okay.
So when I start realizing that I can't get a hold of him, I'm like, okay, there's something going on. I give it like a few more weeks because I'm like, maybe he's rehabilitating himself. Maybe he wants space. You know, I'm not going to badger him.
Right.
And he's also a grown-ass man, mind you. He's 35, 33, 34 at this
he's
point.
Like in his 30s.
He's 37 today. So yeah, he's 34 at this point, 35. So I give him space and I get a call from a lawyer. And I'm like, this is strange. So when I speak with the lawyer, it's a lawyer from the LA area. And I'm like, my brother's not in LA. I'm so confused. And I didn't know much about his case at this point because it wasn't really my business. And I wasn't really trying to, you know.
Like, insert yourself.
Yeah, no, it's not my life, not my money, not my business. So the lawyer's all telling me, yeah, we can't find your brother. We can't get a hold of him. We're planning a court date for him to receive his money. Because at this time, he didn't receive his money until very recently, mind you. He was getting a collection of money, but it wasn't like that whole
the lump sum
amount. Yeah. So when I spoke with the lawyer, I was like, I haven't spoken to him. I haven't talked to him. I'm actually kind of worried too. They're like, okay, well, we're going to get a detective involved and we'll see what we can do. And I'm like, cool, right on. So I did my best to, you know, talk to family that's there, keep an eye out for him, you know, let me know what you can do. Let me know what I can do. We all kind of like went together to try to find him. Nobody could find him. Like, when he goes MIA, he goes MIA. Like, I'm talking like nobody can find him. He is in hiding, right? So that's when I start, okay, I need to find him. I need to work with these people so he can get his money and get his life together. That was my main objective this whole time, was just helping him. And when I couldn't get a hold of him for over a month, I was like, okay, I'm going to file a missing persons report. So that's when and his detective, Joe, was amazing. This whole time was very, 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 very open with me, very honest with me, let me know the entire process of what they were doing. And when they actually found him, like, they let me know everything. And they were super open with me. This was going on for over a year, me and this Joe guy having this relationship, trying to find him.
Right.
And after like 3 or 4 missing persons reports, I was just like, you know what? He clearly doesn't want me to reach out. He clearly doesn't want to be found. Because every time I'd make a missing persons report, they'd close it because they'd find him like high in a Target stealing stuff, or he'd be caught by a police officer, right?
Yeah.
So then they'd call me because there'd be an active open missing persons report. So they'd call me and be like, hey, your brother's found. He doesn't need blah, blah, blah. Because they ask him if he needs anything. They ask him if he needs resources or if he wants to call his family, and he always says no. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm getting irritated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I can't keep trying to make sure a grown man's okay who doesn't want to be okay and who doesn't care.
And not only that, but it's okay to detach with love. It's okay to have enough.
I've had to.
And I feel like people are always like, you can't give up on them. You can't give up on them. And it's like, well, for my sanity and my mental health,
I have to.
You have to. Yeah. You have to put yourself first.
Yeah. And so it came to a point where I was just like, you know what? And I found out a lot of things from this detective. This detective was amazing. Like I said, he did a lot of detecting. And come to find out, my brother was in active addiction again. He was seeing this woman who was like this street girl, this street woman who was telling him to not contact any of his family and that he was fine, and that because they were living in these little mini homes or whatever you want to call them in Sacramento. And they had found the girlfriend at the mini homes, but they didn't find my brother. So the detective had talked to the girlfriend, and the girlfriend, long story short, was like, he wants nothing to do with any of you. Fuck off, pretty much. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right. I get the point. I get the message. So I stopped reaching out for months and months and months. And the last I knew, my brother was dating this girl in active addiction, living in these homes, doing illegal gambling, not doing well at all.
Right.
So I'm just like, okay, at least I know he's alive. I know that
at least he's not dead or anything.
He's not doing well. Got it. And I think it's best that I just give up at this point. And so that's what I did. And I haven't spoken with a detective or a lawyer in months. And I come to find out that my brother is now got his money. He's now working with another one of my drug-addicted aunts, doing God knows what, God knows who, now has a phone, still refuses to contact me. Now that he has all this money, it's like, fuck you, and you don't exist. And I'm just like, but I'm the one that's tried to help you get it. So, I don't know. That's where I'm at with him.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, and he doesn't even know he has a niece. He has no idea that my little brother had a child. He has no idea that
He hasn't tried contacting him either?
Absolutely not.
Did they have a brotherly relationship?
No.
No? Well, then it's almost like...
That's why Elijah, I'm not going to speak for my brother, but I will say from what I've observed, my brother has no connection with him at all. I'm his sister. He goes to me for everything. Me and him really look at each other as we're all we need, because we don't see our little brother, and our older brother's, not in the picture either. And me and Elijah have gone through everything together, literally.
Yeah, you guys are attached to the
literally everything.
He used to wait for you to get off work in the lobby and you'd take him to your place.
And I mean, I'm not going to say our relationship's rainbows and butterflies because it's not. And like I said, addiction affects everyone differently. And Elijah, I think, has suffered the most with having not had a mom for the longest, right? And being the youngest. And I think that that's kind of made him an angry individual at times. And I don't always understand his anger, and he doesn't always understand my frustrations. And then we're siblings, so it's we clash and we fight, but the love is there. And I mean, I'll always be there for him.
Yeah, of course.
And, I think it's really messed up how my older brother, he doesn't know that his little siblings are doing good things, even though we've all had the same mom. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it. We were all raised by the same person and affected by her addiction in different ways, but we still managed to get our shit together.
You don't know your brother had a child. You don't know I'm graduating college next week. You don't know these exciting things.
Oh my God, you're graduating?
I am.
Congrats.
Thanks. I'm going to Cal Poly in the fall. I'm very nervous.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a huge accomplishment, dude. Your education is something that nobody can take away from you.
Absolutely. And nobody can take away my peace. I've come a long way with addiction, and I've come a long way with, accepting the fact that it's not my fault and it's not something I'm responsible for. All I can do is learn from them and not be like them. And also, understand them, because if you don't understand why someone is the way they are, then you're always going to be angry at them.
But also, like, you're an adult, and there comes a point in life where I personally feel like, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but there comes a certain point in life where you cannot blame your upbringing anymore. You cannot blame the way you were treated or something anymore. You're an adult. You need to if you need help, go to therapy or find resources.
Have you heard that saying where it's like, your trauma is not your fault, but the way you handle it is your responsibility?
Exactly. It is your responsibility to get the help that you need. You cannot just keep blaming your trauma and your past on your actions because of that. It's like, put in the work and make the change. You're an adult.
Absolutely.
You're not a child anymore.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you are struggling, ask for help.
Ask for help.
Because if you're struggling,
how are we supposed to know you're struggling if you're not telling us?
And like the thing too about struggling internally is you're human, and humans need people, need interaction. We need community. Like, we need these things in order to be our best selves. Like, nobody in addiction is going to get out of addiction alone. I truly believe that. I think that you need support. You need resources.
I think everybody kind of has their own little point of view on that. But I think I think people can do it on their own, but I think having a support system definitely helps.
Like, you can't try to make positive change in your life if you, one, don't see it within yourself, but also if you don't have reasoning to keep going in a positive direction. And a lot of that comes from like your loved ones or like your purpose as a human, like those things don't just come from being by yourself. Those things comes from relationships and interactions with people and how you can help others. Like, I find addicts to be some of the most caring, smartest, loving people. And I think that there's a lot of people who started from addiction and make beautiful things out of their lives. And it's not an end all, addiction doesn't have to be your end all. You can get out of it.
I think people also in active addiction are frustrated that they aren't getting their life together as fast as they'd like to. And so they have that's also a reason why they have a hard time staying sober.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
It takes years. It takes people years to get their life together. It's not going to happen.
When you have like a criminal record and you have no
There's gonna be hoops.
car, no house, no
start little.
birth certificate, no,
little by little.
ID. Start with the food stamp so you can feed yourself. Get better. Like, ask for help too. Like, because
there's so many resources.
And we're in California,
y'all. There's also a lack of resources. There's so many resources, but there's a lack of funding. And there's it's like almost like there is the resources, but there's not enough.
We're in California too. I think we are so lucky to be in this state because a lot of states don't look at homeless people in addiction as like a real thing and a real problem. They look at it as, oh, this person's fucked up, or this person...
Yeah, they dehumanize.
Yeah, you're not a human just because you do drugs and you don't deserve food, shelter, and basic needs.
No, just because you do drugs does not mean that
you don't deserve
basic human needs
necessities.
And that you're just not a human being.
Right.
Like, and it just makes me so mad. Like, that whole dehumanizing homeless people and people in active addiction is just like, they're still people.
They are. They'll forever be people.
That's somebody's brother, sister, grandkid, mother, father, whatever. That is a person, a human being.
And that's also an experience I've had at St. Joe's Hospital when my mom passed away. The nurses there were so rude and just awful, like they made it like, oh, another street person's in here, dead, probably drug overdose, which, mind you, is not how my mom died. She died of a brain aneurysm. She had a brain bleed. That we suspected we didn't suspect it was a brain bleed, but we suspected something was wrong because she was having headaches for months. Like,
oh, so you had seen your mom, you had the good relationship. I remember you saying you had a good relationship with her.
My mom lived with me.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she lived with me like back, I would say from 2020 is when she kind of started staying with me during COVID. Because I didn't want her, to be... I don't know. I wanted to protect my mom during COVID and I wanted her to be safe and I wanted her to be healthy. And I knew that if she was with me, she was all those things. And she stayed with me at my house. And I remember it was close to Halloween and she was having a really bad migraine. And I'm like, Mom, you need to go to the doctor. Like, you need to, something.
But sometimes, what sucks too is that sometimes people go to the doctor that are in active addiction and then they don't get treated properly because of
or they're
what
so
they look
scared
like
of
or
what they've done to their bodies that they don't want to go to the doctor.
They don't really want,
Like, that was my mom. She was so scared. By the end of her life, she had, like, none of her teeth. Like, she, had stomach issues from drinking a lot. I imagine her liver was probably shot. I mean, whatever brain bleed was going on, like, you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
Like, not going to the doctor for years and years and years and years.
And we're also actively, like, destroying your body.
Absolutely. And then you think of, like, the partners she had and, like, what else could have, like, I'm in the medical field. Like, I think of all the diseases and all the nasty, I'm like, ugh.
Right.
But it's like, not to be that way, but I just wanted her with me. I wanted her to be safe. I wanted her to be secure. I wanted her to eat. I wanted her to sleep. I wanted those things for her. And, when she had that headache, I was like, oh man, like, I got to go to work. And, like, I need you to, either go to sleep or go to the doctor, something, take care of yourself. And that's just kind of what it became towards the end of her life, was me taking care of her. And she ended up with a boyfriend towards the end of her life that I did not really know and don't like. She was at his house the day she died. She actually, I don't think she died at his house, but as she was dying, was at his house. The way he explains the story is she had another one of her migraines, her headaches. And he, like, told her to go take a shower. Why would you do that? I don't know. Told her to go take a shower. She ends up falling in the shower, fainting. And so he's like, okay, something's wrong. No shit. Like, so he's like, doesn't call the ambulance right away. And I'm just like, I'm pissed because I'm hearing the story and I'm like, you probably prolonged my mom. You probably prolonged, or, not prolonged. You probably, like, took minutes off my mom's life, honestly. But
how long did you say it took him to call someone?
It had been, I don't know exactly. I couldn't say, but he did everything but call the ambulance. He got one of his homies to bring her some street Suboxone to try to get her out of pain. What else did he do? Tried to get her to drink some alcohol.
Do you think he didn't want law enforcement maybe to show up because he had
Absolutely. And this story really boils my blood because he says that night him and my mom were drinking and doing meth. But I didn't find this out until after she had died, right? And I didn't find out until my brothers found out. He was going to keep this from me because he knew I would have reacted, right? But he told my brothers, and my brothers were like, no, you have to tell my sister. Like, what the fuck? She's her daughter too. Like, but long story short, he didn't get her to the hospital in time, and she ended up dying right away at the hospital. I ended up getting a call from the hospital. I'm, mind you, working with a special needs patient at this time because I was taking care of special needs people.
Right.
And I can't just leave my job, when I'm getting this call. I freak out. Like, I fall to the ground and I'm just like, what are you telling me? My mom is dead. What do you mean? I was so confused because I dropped her off at her boyfriend's house.
I was gonna say, you just saw her.
And I went to work.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, it didn't register. It was like I was like out of my body, right? And mind you, I have to take care of this girl who is not capable of taking care of herself. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I call my dad freaking out, crying, call my grandpa, call my uncle. I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like, call my brothers. And my dad's like, you need to call your girl's mom and have her pick her up. That way we can come pick you up and we'll go to the hospital. So all this, freaking out and like hyperventilating and like trying to like get out of my job pretty much so I can go to the hospital. It like felt like hours. Like it felt like time was going by so slow. But it really wasn't. It was like within 10 minutes, my dad was there. He picked me up. And I remember walking to my car because my dad's girlfriend drove their car and my dad drove my car because I couldn't drive. I was so distraught. I remember falling in the parking lot, just collapsing on my knees and just screaming and wailing. And my dad's like, we cannot do this here. Like, this is her apartment. You can't, someone's going to think something's wrong. Like, we need to go and you need to say bye to your mom. And so I remember I was in McKinleyville working, and I just remember that whole drive to the hospital was agonizing. It was the worst pain I'd ever been in my life. And Elijah was in Fortuna.
I know, I was with him.
That's insane. Yeah, so my
I
brother...
wasn't, like, with him, we were at the same place.
Close enough.
Yeah.
That's so fucking weird.
Well, it was my niece's birthday.
Yeah, I didn't even know what he was doing. I just knew he was with his girlfriend, and I just knew that I had to call him, and I didn't know how the fuck I was going to do it. And I called Elijah, and my dad didn't want me to tell him until he got home because he had to drive from Fortuna. And my dad was like, you weren't safe to drive from McKinleyville. He's not going to be safe to drive.
Yeah.
So I just remember... I'll rewind a little bit. So my dad took me to the hospital where I met my older brother and his girlfriend, because at this time he was sober, right?
Okay, right. Yeah, he was at Crossroads.
And my best friend just so happened to be a nurse. And life is so weird. My best friend, my mom died on a Saturday. My best friend never worked Saturday. She got called into work that night. And she had heard on like the intercom, because when someone dies in the hospital, they announce it.
I didn't know that.
My best friend was like, someone just died. Like, this is so strange. They have me in the ED, even though she's a nurse in the PCU. She's like, they have me in the ED, and I don't know. Vibes are weird tonight. And I'm just like, huh, that's strange. Okay. And then come to find out that was my mom. And she was there when my mom was dying in the hospital. And so she met with me, and she's like, I can't finish my shift. Like, there's no way. Because, like, my best friend loved my mom. Like, we were roommates when my mom lived with us. Like, you know, and it was just a heartbreaking night, like, for all of us. And the nurse, to take it back to how addicts and their families are treated, you know, I had questions about, like, well, what happened to my mom? Like, she was so dismissive and so just like, she's dead. You need to say goodbye. Like, this was like, I'm just like, oh, I'm not allowed to ask questions. Like, was there drugs in her system? Yeah, there was meth in her system.
Where's your bedside manner?
Totally. And I was just like, what the fuck? So I got pissed, and I
don't care if my mom had meth in her. I don't care. She's still a person, and that's still my mom. And you're gonna tell me this? Like,
right.
You're gonna treat me like this?
And I was like, so her aneurysm, like, did you guys like have time to like stop the brain bleed? They're like, no, it was too late. We couldn't do anything. I was just like, okay. So clearly this is the treatment I'm going to get. So I got really fucking angry, and I just started booking it. Like, I don't know what went through my head, but I just started running as fast as I could. And my best friend chased after me. She's like, girl, where are you going? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm angry and I'm pissed and my mom's dead and I just want to go, like, run away. And she's like, no, we need to go say goodbye to your mom. And so she's like dragging me into the hospital with my brother and his girlfriend at the time. And we're all just like mourning my mom in her hospital bed. And that's how that went. And then after that, I went back home to my dad's house because I couldn't go home that night. Actually, I did go home that night, but I got really fucking hammered, and I said, fuck it. All my best friends came over, and we had like a little mini memorial, and we got hammered. And I have no regrets because I didn't want to feel nothing, literally nothing. But before that happened, I went to my dad's and I called my brother and I told him, you need to come home now. Like, you need to come home now. It's important. And Elijah's very anxious himself. And he's like, sis, you got to tell me, like, what's going on? Like, what is happening? I'm like, I can't tell you right now, but you need to come home. And I think my dad was the one who ended up telling him because I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I just remember Elijah, me and my dad all breaking down in the front yard. And it was just like this weird emotional connection that I've never had with my brother and my dad before. It was actually almost like the time we found out my papa passed away, but it wasn't as intense, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what happened. And I would say in the last few years, you know, those symptoms of depression and anxiety from when I was 14 have kind of revamped and have taken, you know, over parts of my life at times, but, you know, I think it's important to not let it consume you. You know, that's why therapy or doing whatever it is that helps you is important, because grief is not linear. Addiction's not linear. Nothing about life is linear. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I don't have words. I'm sorry. Like,
no, it's a lot. That's why I wanted to do this, because like I wanted to share my story because it's heavy, but it's also like I feel like I'm a good example of, you can go through things, but you could still come out the other side and do things, and like you don't have to be your drug addicted parent or your drug addicted brother, and you don't have,
But looking back too, it makes me realize, because I remember when I did work with you, you seemed very depressed.
Oh, yeah. And then I got in that stupid relationship with my ex. And that was also...
I never understood that relationship.
That was also...
It was so random.
But he was also an addict, Angelica. Like, he was an alcoholic through and through.
Well, I remember there was that one time, because you worked Grave at one point.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember there was this... I remember very vividly, there was this meeting in our break room with like our boss.
Yeah,
and you had came out crying. And I was like, I was talking to Emily. I was like, what happened to Carissa? And she was like, I don't know. And we were all talking about it. And then come to find out, it was like all of you Grave folk were getting drunk at McDonald's like the whole night or something, and someone snitched or I don't know what.
No, one got fired. I think I was like on suspension.
You were suspension because you came back.
I
remember
come back
coming back
because my Happy really liked me. I was like, okay. And then the other one got fired, and then he got to stay too. I was very confused at that. I think he was suspended too, but we both got to return.
I'm trying to remember who else was part of that incident.
Mika.
I forgot about her. I didn't want to like name drop, but I was like, I remember it was you and your ex, and there was someone else, which was weird. Now that okay, this is completely off topic. Do you remember when we showed up to Mika's apartment that one time because she wanted? Okay, so my mom really was not like a helicopter mom. She was chill. She let me do like whatever.
Yeah. But she wanted
to meet my friends.
Yeah,
like she always wanted to know who I was hanging out with, rightfully so. And she also knew I was a liar. So she like
not a good one, huh?
Apparently not. But like Mika also lived a block away from me. And mind you, Mika was way older than me.
Way older than all of us.
All of us.
Like even older than me, and I was older than you guys. She was like in her 30s.
Yeah, and I was 18 because I was in college. And I lived with my mom, and my mom was like, if you're going to live in my house, you're going to live under my rules.
Absolutely.
And I was like, okay.
That's
obviously, I was like, fuck this. But, I was like, I want to live here, and I have to respect my mom and stuff. So she was like, I really want to know who you're hanging out with. And I was like, there's just some friends from work, Mom. But I knew, because we were partying there. We were drinking.
Totally.
We weren't doing like drugs or anything bad. We were just hanging out. We were smoking weed and drinking. That's normal. But also, I was 18. And so she was like, well, I want to meet your friends. And I was like, no, like, you're being weird. Like,
you guys would also smoke bongs in my car. Remember that?
Yeah. And so, like, we were just teenagers,
we were just
young.
We
were just young and dumb.
Literally doing nothing wrong.
And my mom made me drive to Mika's apartment in Eureka, which was a block away from our house, really, like, just like down the street around the corner. And she didn't give me enough time to, like, text you guys.
Oh my God.
To let you know, like, hey, we're coming, hide the bong or something.
I do remember that.
And oh my God, I was so embarrassed. And then I remember your ex was loading up a bong hit. And when we knocked and he saw, I think he had it like this. But when he saw my mom, he like moved it to the side. It wasn't even lit yet.
Oh my God.
And my mom didn't like that I smoked weed and drank. And I wasn't really that big of a weed smoker anyway. I was more of a drinker. And even then, in that point in life, I wasn't like a heavy drinker. I just I like the vibe. I'm there to
I definitely
hang out.
Have never been a heavy drinker.
Yeah, and she was just like, I just wanted to see, who my daughter was hanging out with, and you guys are, nice. So
and older.
And older, yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys were older.
That was the most important factor.
Yeah, but like, my mom just always worried about us. She didn't want us to go down a wrong path. I think every parent worries about their kid.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad my mom was like that. And she was a hard ass. And
it's easy in this particular town to go down a bad path, right?
And she also it is. And so I understand why she did it. And but I look back and I laugh about it with her and like we joke about it. And my mom has always been very like we get along. But we've always been very different. And she
Absolutely.
always caught on to my shit. She knew when I was lying. Because she'd be like, no, you're doing this, and I'd be like, how do you know? Like, I'd be like,
So
no.
funny.
So it's like,
I'm grateful because me and my dad had this understanding when he became a single dad to a teenage daughter. He's like, you're going to do things. Also, like my high school boyfriend I was with all throughout high school, and he was older. So my dad was like, if you're going to date an older boy, you're going to always be honest with me. You're not going to, you're going to tell me what you're doing. And I had this foundation with my dad where I didn't feel the need to lie because I felt as long as I'm honest with him, he and me will have an understanding of I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to be a kid. I'm going to probably lose my virginity at some point and, smoke weed and do things. And he's going to have to live with it, But however, if I'm, honest, if he asks me questions and if I am not sneaking around doing things behind his back, I think that will give us a better trust. And that's the most important thing I think that I had in my teenage years was that foundation with my dad, which is great.
You know what is that I was always really honest with my mom about that kind of stuff. Like I think my first real boyfriend in high school, I think I was like a sophomore or something. And I was with him for a while and she was like, we need to talk because I was a virgin still. And so she was like, we need to, and she was really cool. And a lot of people were like, oh, they took their daughter to Planned Parenthood. What kind of parent? There's some people that are like that.
I worked at Planned Parenthood. I think it's a beautiful thing.
And I think I'm so glad my mom took me to Planned Parenthood to be educated and like.
See, my dad didn't take me. However, he did know I went and he, I didn't want my dad to take me. I'm sorry, but that's embarrassing for me personally.
My mom went with me.
I mean, I would have had a woman go with me.
I understand. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But my dad, no.
No, I don't think I would ever talk to my dad about anything like that ever.
So like, he's like, I'm like, can I go? He's like, yeah, you can go, but I ain't going with you.
Even
and
making those jokes.
That's fine.
Well, what's funny is I can't even make those jokes with my dad. Like I was at my dad's house last week and he gave me this like disc. He's like, I can't figure out it's not working. It's a video. Can you take it to the IT guy you work with and see if they can figure out what's wrong with it? And I was like, oh, did it play before? He's like, yeah. And he had them labeled and I was like, it's not going to be like a sex tape or anything, right? Like, it's not going to be like a tape over. And my dad was like, what? Like, no, what the fuck? And I was like, I'm just saying. I was like, I don't want to accidentally be given something and like you taped over it and you don't know.
That's so funny.
And he was just like, what the fuck? And I was
where is this like, coming from?
And I was, you never know.
You totally.
Have you seen the movie iCloud where that couple makes a sex tape and the whole family gets it? Yeah, I'm not trying to be a victim of that.
I am a victim of that, okay?
Gross.
I have accidentally seen things I don't want to see on my parents' phones. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm glad that never happened to me. But yeah, so I totally get it. I wouldn't want to go with my dad to Planned Parenthood, especially as a teenager.
And I mean, my grandma and me were very open. However, who wants to take their grandma to Planned Parenthood? Like, my options were limited here.
I'd rather go alone than with I can't even imagine going with my grandma.
So I went with my best friend, who I talk about a lot in this podcast, Paige.
Paige?
She's the nurse.
Oh, okay. Do you have a best friend named Amanda?
Amanda, yeah. Amanda and Paige are still both my best friends. But yeah, Paige and me were like, you know what? Let's just go together and we'll be each other's emergency contacts. And that's so funny because still to this day, we're both still each other's emergency contacts.
Yeah.
For Planned Parenthood.
So I know we got off topic, but then you were dating that guy.
And he was a massive alcoholic.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either until I started dating him. But yeah, that was, he was also very violent and angry.
Really?
Yes. And my dad, like, literally the whole time I dated him, he's like, he's so small. You could have took him out. And I'm like, but when someone's drunk.
I know, I'm looking back and he was like.
When someone's drunk, though, you don't mess with that because you don't know what they're capable of.
Violent people in general.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not trying to deal with that shit.
And that was like 4 years of my life. Like, I'm like.
You were with him that long?
Well, we broke up in 2019.
Well, yeah, because I remember I quit and then I moved away in 2019.
Yeah,
so
we dated
I was
from
like
2015 to 2019. Long time.
I remember when you guys first started dating. That's crazy. Wow, dude.
And I've been single ever since. Isn't that crazy? Like, literally. So 6 years. Yeah, I have not had a relationship since him. I'm like, you ruined me.
I'm mortified. I'm traumatized.
No, for real.
How dare you?
Like, I'm good. Like,
honestly, I think a lot of people feel that way when they get into like really toxic relationships. It's like, I'd rather just be alone.
No, like I've dated, like I'm not going to say I haven't dated. Like I've dated, a few people. And I mean, I haven't met someone that is worth my time. That's all.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I feel like because I have single friends. So it's like, and they tell me like the same thing. They'll be like, I just haven't met somebody worth it.
And it's also like, I really want to meet someone who is understanding of my family dynamic, because it's not easy, I've been told, to, date somebody with a lot of trauma and a lot of
baggage.
Yeah. And
but I feel like everybody's got baggage.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's different types of baggage. I'm not saying like baggage is just baggage. I'm just saying like, I think
we all have a past.
Everybody has a past and everybody has baggage. It's just a matter of how much an individual is willing to take on. Because it's like, I mean, you got fucking issues, bro.
Oh, like, for real. Like, and I'll be the first to admit, like, it's not easy dating someone like me.
Yeah.
And it's
at
also,
least you're upfront and honest at the beginning.
And it's like, I also say, like, I'm someone that struggles with depression and anxiety. So if there's days that I am not happy or myself, that is very normal in my life.
And especially if you're dating someone that could have like an anxious attachment style, to where when you are like that and they have that anxious attachment style, they're going to think that they did something wrong.
Right.
And it's hard to date somebody. Like I for sure have an anxious attachment style.
I think I'm more of the anxious attachment style, but the person I've most dated recently, he's a little bit older than I am, and his form of communication is new for me. So it's like, whoa, like that makes me anxious. Like there's a lot to like learn about, other people and like their communication styles as well, because I know what mine is. Mine's very like timid and quiet and like, but that also doesn't like get me anywhere in the dating world, I've noticed.
My issue is that I like to talk about something right then and there, even when I'm still upset about it.
Oh, yeah.
And because I have that anxiousness of, I don't want to talk about it later. I want to talk about it right now.
Well, then it's going to boil in your head and then you're going to be like,
yeah, see, from one anxious person to another. It's like, it's hard, dude. So I don't blame you. It's to find the right person, definitely. And take your time.
Yeah, I'm only 30, but there's time. There's time.
Dude, 30's young. 30's the new 25.
It really is.
25's the new 21, and 30's the new 25. So technically, I'm 23.
And I'm like, I have no issues with having kids later in life. I'm like,
oh, I want a kid like in my 30s.
I'm like, that'll be amazing, because I'll be done with college.
Yeah. And I want to live my life, and I want to be selfish, and I want to travel, and I want to make sure that
stuff like this.
Well, I also don't want to struggle.
Absolutely.
And I know that I don't think that I would struggle if I wanted to have a kid right now, but I'm saying is like, I just don't want to have to. I don't want to have to if I don't have to.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a time and a place in your life, and it doesn't have to be right now.
Yeah. And like my friends are having kids, and like good for them,
I'm the only one besides Paige that doesn't have kids. All my friends have kids. Going on number 2, number 3.
A lot of my friends have kids, but I also have a handful of friends that don't have kids.
Yeah.
So it's like
more of my friends do than don't. But I also like my little brother is a parent before I am. So it's really cool to like,
isn't that crazy?
See him and like what advice I can get from him, like, because he's a really good dad. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's crazy. Life works in such mysterious ways.
It really does. It really does. And like, I don't know. I think that this is going to sound really weird, but I think that all of the hurt and the pain, like from my mom's death, I really truly believe that Rihanna came into our lives to like make us happy and to like,
she's so freaking cute,
and to just like change our lives, because her birthday is like literally 8 days before my mom's death date. So it's just the timing of it all and like the way it worked out and like her name even, like, I don't know. It's everything. And it really made a big change for, I think, me, my brother, and my dad, and just like our happiness and like our fulfillment, like that hole in our hearts have been fulfilled kind of. Yeah. So that's good, I think.
Do you think your perspective on like addiction changed as you got older? Like, how did it change? Like, what was your thought process at the beginning when you were dealing with, like, addiction in your family to later on in life? Like, did it
That's a
change?
great question. Yeah, when I was a kid, I thought that addiction and drug addicts I was very judgy. I wasn't the kid that was like, I mean, I grew up watching Intervention and all that kind of stuff, and I understood that addiction was a disease and not a choice. However, when I was younger, I thought, man, why is she choosing to do this? Why is my brother choosing to do this? Why can't they just stop? Like, why is it so hard? Like, I see dad drink a beer and not go crazy. I see, like other people, take medication and not get addicted. It's like I had those questions like, why, and now I don't have the why anymore. Like I understand it more. And I realized that it's a disease and people don't. If they were in their right mind, do you really think someone would choose to shoot up fentanyl in their arm? Like, let's think about it. Like, do you think they want to wake up and be freezing every day and not have breakfast? Like, let's think about that. They don't want to.
It's not even just that, too. It's like, what about the people that do meth that don't want to be hungry anymore?
Right. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, I became more, I just became more understanding of it. And I've done a lot of research on it. And I've tried to look at it from an outsider's perspective. And I just try not to judge and just try to understand. And I also feel like addiction is not something that you have to let define you either. It's not something like, it's not like cancer. It's not like congested heart failure. It's not like something that's going to never go away. I mean, it does go away. It doesn't go away. Like, I'm not saying like those temptations and like you being an addict, you're forever an addict. However, you can get your shit together if you really want it. Like someone with cancer like is fighting for their life and they don't know if they're going to live or not, Like the difference between that is really what gets me the most, I think. But I do know it's an addiction, it's a disease, and I've understood more that there's more to it than just them choosing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people are just super uneducated and just, but they also don't want to bother.
It's genetics. It's hereditary.
Yeah.
Like there is, like when you come from a long line of addiction and you have pain in your heart and your life and things happen and you don't have coping skills, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, it runs in their life. I mean, they watch their mom do it. They watch their cousin do it, whatever the case may be. So it almost becomes the easiest way, rather than dealing with the hurt or the pain or whatever, what have you, It's just easier to do what I've seen someone else do and what I know I can do. And then it becomes like, oh, I feel good, or I like this feeling. I don't ever want to feel bad again, And like the constant feeling of wanting to feel good and block out the hurt, that's an addiction. It doesn't matter even what you're using. It could be food. It can be...
You can be addicted to anything.
A Nick vape like me, It could be whatever you decide to cope with or what makes you feel like that serotonin boost or that dopamine boost. Like that's where addiction comes from. Like, and it can be anything. Coffee, caffeine. Like all the doctors I work with, caffeine addicts for sure. And they talk about, don't do this to your body. Don't do this to your body. Don't do this. Like caffeine's horrible for you. Like it's awful. Like nicotine, like there's so many over exercising, eating disorders. Like there's a lot of things that go into the umbrella of addiction.
Yep.
Addiction is a big umbrella. It's not.
And recovery is too.
Yeah. Like it's a big umbrella and there's so many things under the umbrella. And there's like a million categories of, different things. But yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any resources or anything when you were in high school? Like, were you going to therapy or was that later on in
I've been in therapy
adulthood?
Off and on since I was a kid. So for different things, like OCD, anxiety, like those are typically what my parents put me in therapy for as a kid. But as I got older, my dad would put me and my little brother in like trauma therapy. And then when my mom passed away, I went to grief therapy. And I did that for up until last year. So
do you go to support groups?
I don't, but I'm very, very, very intrigued. And I want to because we have those at my work. Like we have grief like groups. And then we also have like Al-Anon, little things like that to help with addiction. That I went to a meeting one time with my grandma when I was...
To Al-Anon?
Mm-hmm, when I was...
How was it?
It was, I think, in Redwood Acres. It was like it was very, very awkward. And I vaguely remember it, but I was like 15 or 16. And my grandma thought it would benefit me, you know?
I can understand why she thought that, though, because even in my line of work, I've thought about going to Al-Anon.
Just so you can like understand like the addict's the addict and you're you. Like they don't have to connect. They don't have to intermingle. Like the codependency doesn't have to be there. Like that's what I took from it. But I was still so young and in my angry stage, right, of like just hating my mom. And I feel bad saying that because I don't hate her and I'm not angry with her. But at that time I was. So the resources were pretty limited, I would say, as a teenager. But I would say my dad did try. Like he did try to like, you know, make sure that that was something that we had available if we wanted.
Do you feel like it helped?
At times, yes, and at times, no, because I feel like there was times where I felt like going to therapy helped, but then there was also so much other stuff going on in life that contributed to why I was stressed. And it wasn't just my mom, you know? So I feel like the therapy helped for that particular reason, but not for other issues.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone that is possibly dealing with a parent or a sibling in active addiction or even grief?
Yeah. My best advice would be to, number one, keep going. Like, don't give up and don't, you know, allow people to tell you how to heal. And don't think that you have to heal at a particular time or that healing looks like a certain thing, because healing looks different to everybody. And there will be days where you feel angry and you cry and you wonder why your mom was taken from you or why you weren't good enough to have a normal mom or whatever, you know? But it's not your fault. Like, it's not my fault. It's not my brother's fault. Like, we weren't asked to be here. Nobody's asked to be here. But I think that when you have a parent or anyone you love who is addicted to something that makes them not themselves, you have to separate the addiction from who they actually are. You have to know that, you know, your loved one is still there, but they're not themselves. And when you separate the two and when you take the addiction away from the loved one and separate them, that's what kept me from hating my mom and kept me from really, really being angry with her and never forgiving her, you know? And I think also forgiveness is important too. I think forgiving but not forgetting. And I think forgiveness on your own time. Don't let people force you to forgive your loved one just because it's what they want, you know? I think that working through things at your own pace is definitely the best way to go.
Yeah.
And, you know, just learn about addiction so you understand your loved one, you know? Like, I didn't understand why my mom was the way she was until I really took the time to understand addiction and why she's the way she is, you know?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are addicted to things and there's a lot of addicts out there, and a lot of addicts, you know, are lovable still and they're still good people and they're still, you know, humans, like you said. That doesn't necessarily take away from that aspect of life. It's just they're hurting and they're not, again, themselves. So, yeah.
Is there anything you want to say or anything you want to share?
No, I think I've shared a lot and I'm really thankful you let me talk, and I'm really glad you let me do this, and I'm
grateful that you came.
Yeah, it was
I
a great
seen
time.
You in a long time.
I know.
I always I think we react to each other's stuff, like on social media.
I watch all the TikTok podcast videos. I'm like, this is a good one.
I know you still kind of hang out with Emily, but she's so annoying. I always tell her, I'm always like, well, tell me when you guys are going to hang out so I can come.
Yeah, she does my lashes.
So. Oh, yeah.
Well, she did my lashes, but it's been a long time. I've kind of like seen, you know, Emmy go through things, and I'm like, you know, she probably needs to like, you know, figure her life out too, and like, you know.
Yeah, I see her pretty regularly, but I know you're busy and stuff, and I'll definitely make sure to reach out. I suck at reaching out to people sometimes.
I do too, girl. Like, even like my best friends that I've been friends with for years, it's like, when am I going to see you?
Sometimes I have to send my really good friend Sean, I'll text him and be like, do you still love me? Because I haven't seen him in like over a month, and he'll be like, yes. And I'm like, okay, I just needed reassurance.
Totally. Like,
so it's like,
it's positive. It's positive, healthy reassurance, but You still love your people. It's just you're busy and life happens.
Life seriously just happens.
It does. And also when you're not in the best state of mind or you feel like you're having a rough day or a week, there's nothing wrong with taking time for you. I've learned that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it at all. And I totally recommend it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing.
Yes,
I really enjoyed having you here today.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, guys, I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.